As I sit here alone in this forgotten room, the memories of that fateful summer flood back, like a relentless tide of darkness. I never thought I'd be entangled in something so sinister, so surreal. But here I am, recounting my story, hoping that it serves as a cautionary tale. It all began innocently enough. I had recently graduated from college, eager to embark on the adventure of adult life. The world stretched out before me, full of possibilities. I had moved to a new city and was slowly settling into my job. But something was missing, a sense of belonging, a community. Little did I know that longing would lead me down a path I could never have imagined. One sunny afternoon, while sipping coffee at a local cafe, I noticed a flyer on the community board. It was an invitation to a gathering promising enlightenment and inner peace. The group called themselves the Cult of the Silent Shadows. The flyer showed a serene, masked figure bathed in moonlight, holding a candle. It piqued my curiosity, and with nothing to lose, I decided to attend their meeting. The address led me to an unassuming building on the outskirts of town. I entered a room filled with people of all ages, races, and backgrounds. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and I felt an immediate sense of camaraderie. It seemed like the community I had been searching for. Their leader, a charismatic man named Gabriel, took the stage. He was a tall figure with piercing blue eyes and an air of magnetism that was impossible to ignore. He spoke eloquently about the struggles of modern life, the chaos of the world, and the need for inner tranquility. "We are the Silent Shadows," he proclaimed, "and we offer you a path to serenity, away from the noise and distractions of the outside world." His words resonated with me as they did with everyone else in the room. Gabriel spoke of meditation, mindfulness, and the power of silence in a world filled with constant chatter. It all sounded so appealing, so simple. Over the next few weeks, I attended the Silent Shadows gatherings regularly. The teachings became the anchor of my life. Gabriel's charisma and the sense of belonging I found within the group were addictive. I was not alone in my devotion, many others were equally captivated. As the days turned into months, the group's activities grew more intense. We were encouraged to immerse ourselves fully in their teachings. I began spending more time with my fellow members, often at the cult's secluded retreat deep in the woods. It was during one of these retreats that I began to notice something strange. The teachings, once focused on meditation and mindfulness, had taken a darker turn. Gabriel spoke of the need to shed our former selves, to become shadows of our former lives. He preached the power of silence, not just as a form of meditation, but as a way of life. The group started practicing silence for days at a time, communicating only through gestures and writing. We were discouraged from contacting our families and friends outside the cult, as they were seen as distractions from our true purpose. I began to feel a growing unease, but my attachment to Gabriel and the community kept me from questioning too deeply. I was not alone in my hesitation, but no one dared to speak out against the charismatic leader. One evening, as the sun set behind the trees, Gabriel gathered us around a roaring bonfire. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Gabriel announced that to become true Silent Shadows, we must undergo a ritual of purification. The ritual involved fasting for 3 days, spending all our waking hours in complete silence and meditating by the fire. It was meant to cleanse our minds and souls, to make us more receptive to the cult's teachings. I felt a knot of dread in my stomach but couldn't bring myself to refuse. As the days of fasting passed, I became increasingly weak. My body ached, and my mind felt like a stormy sea. The silence, once soothing, now pressed down on me like a heavy weight. It was as if we were all sinking into a darkness, a collective silence that threatened to swallow us whole. On the third night of the ritual, something changed. As we meditated around the fire, the flames seemed to dance with an eerie, unnatural intensity. Gabriel stood at the center, his eyes closed in deep concentration. Then, with a sudden and unsettling calmness, he began to chant in a language I didn't recognize. The chant grew louder and more fervent, and the flames leaped higher, casting bizarre, flickering shadows on the faces of the cult members. I watched in growing horror as the atmosphere shifted from one of serenity to something altogether different. It was at that moment that I realized the true nature of the Silent Shadows. We were not a community seeking enlightenment and inner peace. We were pawns in Gabriel's grand delusion. He had manipulated us into a cult of silence. using our vulnerability and desire for belonging against us. I knew I had to escape. With trembling hands, I rose from my meditation spot and slowly backed away from the fire. The cult members were so engrossed in the ritual that they didn't notice my departure. I slipped into the darkness of the woods, my heart pounding like a drum. As I made my way back to civilization, I couldn't help but wonder about the fate of my fellow cult members. Had they truly become the silent shadows Gabriel had envisioned? Or had they fallen victim to a madness born of silence and isolation? I reported the cult to the authorities, but by the time they arrived at the retreat, it was empty. Gabriel and his followers had vanished, leaving behind only the lingering echoes of their chilling silence. In the years that followed, I rebuilt my life, forever haunted by the memory of the silent shadows. I learned the hard way that the quest for belonging and purpose can sometimes lead us down the darkest of paths, and I vowed to never let the shadows of silence consume me again. But even now, as I sit here alone, I can't shake the feeling that Gabriel and his cult are still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next unsuspecting victim. The darkness of that summer still clings to me, a constant reminder of the horrors that can hide behind a mask of serenity. Months had passed since my escape from the cult of the silent shadows. I had rebuilt my life, but the memories of that nightmarish experience continued to haunt my every waking moment. I couldn't help but wonder what had become of my fellow cult members, and whether Gabriel and his twisted teachings still held them in their grip. I kept a low profile, fearing that the cult might somehow track me down. My days were spent in constant vigilance, always watching my back, always on edge. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Gabriel and his followers were out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. One day, as I was going through my mail, I came across a letter. It was an anonymous message, a simple piece of paper with a single word written in bold letters: silence. My heart raced as I realized that the cult had found me, or at least someone who knew about my past involvement with them. I had to find out who sent the letter, and more importantly, whether the cult was still active. I began to dig deeper, retracing my steps and reaching out to former cult members who had managed to break free like me. It wasn't easy. Many were still too frightened to talk, but gradually I pieced together a picture of what had transpired after my escape. It seemed that in the wake of my departure, the cult had become even more secretive and reclusive. They had changed their meeting locations frequently, always staying one step ahead of anyone who might be looking for them. Gabriel's hold on his followers had grown stronger, and his teachings had taken a more extreme turn. Rumors circulated that the cult had become involved in criminal activities, using their collective silence as a cover for illegal operations. But these were only whispers, and concrete information was hard to come by. Determined to expose the cult and bring an end to their reign of silence, I reached out to a journalist friend who had a reputation for investigating secretive organizations. With the evidence I had gathered, we began to dig deeper into the activities of the cult of the silent shadows. Our investigation led us down a twisted and treacherous path. We followed leads, interviewed former cult members, and even managed to infiltrate some of their gatherings undercover. What we discovered was chilling. The cult had evolved into a tightly knit, secretive society with Gabriel as its unquestioned leader. His charisma and manipulative tactics had only grown more potent over time. The members had become fanatical in their devotion, believing that silence was the key to ultimate enlightenment. But behind the facade of serenity and inner peace lay a darker truth. The cult had indeed become involved in criminal activities, ranging from money laundering to extortion. Their network stretched far and wide, with members in positions of power and influence across various industries. As we delved deeper into our investigation, we realized that exposing the cult would not be easy. They had eyes and ears everywhere, and anyone who tried to speak out against them faced threats, intimidation, and even violence. But we were determined to unmask the shadows and bring an end to their reign of terror. We compiled our findings, collected evidence, and prepared to blow the lid off the cult of the silent shadows. Our investigative report was set to be published in a major newspaper, promising to expose the cult's criminal activities and the dangers they posed to society. But as the publication date drew nearer, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into a trap. My fears were realized on the night before the report was scheduled to be released. I received another anonymous message, this time more ominous than the first. It was a simple warning: silence is golden. I immediately contacted my journalist friend, and we decided to go public with the threats we had received. We believed that the cult would think twice about taking any drastic action if their actions were brought to light. The next day, as the report hit the headlines, the cult's reaction was swift and brutal. They released a statement denying all allegations and accusing us of spreading lies and slander. Gabriel, in a chilling video message, warned that those who sought to expose the cult's secrets would face dire consequences. Despite our fears, we pressed on, believing that the power of truth and justice would prevail. But the cult was not to be underestimated. They launched a campaign of harassment and intimidation against us, trying to discredit our investigation and silence us through any means necessary. As the pressure mounted, my journalist friend and I received a tip that Gabriel and his inner circle would be holding a secret gathering in an isolated location. It was an opportunity we couldn't pass up. We contacted law enforcement and provided them with the information we had gathered. On the night of the raid, we accompanied the police to the remote location where the cult's gathering was taking place. The tension was palpable as we approached the compound. We knew that this would be the moment of reckoning, the final showdown with the cult of the Silent Shadows. As we stormed the compound, a fierce battle ensued. Gabriel and his followers, armed with unwavering devotion and a willingness to protect their secrets at all costs, put up a formidable resistance. But the combined efforts of law enforcement and the evidence we had gathered proved to be their undoing. Gabriel was arrested, and his mask of charisma finally shattered. The cult members were taken into custody, their reign of silence broken. The truth about their criminal activities was exposed for the world to see. In the aftermath of the raid, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had led me from a naive seeker of belonging to an unwitting victim of a dangerous cult, and finally to a crusader for justice. The cult of the Silent Shadows had been dismantled, its darkness brought into the light. But the scars it had left on my psyche and the lives of its former members would never fully heal. I had learned the hard way that the search for meaning and community could sometimes lead to places of unimaginable darkness. The experience left me with a profound sense of caution and a determination to be vigilant against the allure of charismatic leaders and their promises of enlightenment. As I looked back on the long and harrowing journey, I couldn't help but wonder if the shadows of the cult would ever truly fade away, or if they would continue to haunt me, like a lingering echo of silence in the darkest corners of my mind. My name is Sarah, and I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood with my loving parents, David and Linda, and my younger brother, Michael. We were an ordinary family, leading an ordinary life. Our days were filled with school, work, and the occasional family outing. But that all changed one fateful day. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when we first encountered the cult. David had taken us to the local farmers market, a place we often visited on weekends. As we strolled among the stalls, sampling fresh produce and enjoying the vibrant atmosphere, a woman approached us. She was dressed in simple robes, her demeanor calm and serene. "Hello," she said with a warm smile. "I couldn't help but notice your family. You seem like kindred spirits." We exchanged pleasantries, and the woman introduced herself as Emily. She spoke of a community called the Tranquil Souls, a group of like-minded individuals seeking inner peace and enlightenment. Emily's words were captivating, and we found ourselves drawn to her presence. Over the following weeks, Emily became a frequent visitor to our home. She brought with her the teachings of the Tranquil Souls, a philosophy centered around mindfulness, meditation, and a simpler way of life. She spoke of finding tranquility in a chaotic world, and her words resonated deeply with my family. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Emily proposed that we attend one of the Tranquil Souls gatherings. "It's an opportunity to experience our community firsthand," she said, "to see if it aligns with your desires for inner peace." We were hesitant at first, but the allure of tranquility and the sense of belonging that Emily offered were too enticing to resist. With her guidance, we made the decision to visit the Tranquil Souls. Our first gathering with the Tranquil Souls was held in an idyllic rural setting. A small group of people dressed in robes similar to Emily's welcomed us with open arms. They exuded an air of serenity that was both captivating and unnerving. The teachings of the Tranquil Souls revolved around meditation, minimalism, and the renunciation of worldly possessions. At first, it seemed like a path to inner peace, a way to simplify our lives and find a sense of purpose. But as time went on, the teachings became increasingly extreme. We were encouraged to sever ties with our old lives, to let go of our possessions, and to embrace a life of austerity. The cult members spoke in hushed tones about the need to transcend the material world and reach a higher state of consciousness. My family and I became increasingly isolated from our friends and extended family as the Tranquil Souls became the center of our lives. Emily, once a mere acquaintance, had become our de facto leader. Her charisma and unwavering devotion to the cult were impossible to resist. As the cult's grip on our family tightened, I began to notice disturbing changes in my parents and brother. They had become increasingly distant, their eyes vacant and hollow. The cult's teachings had taken a darker turn, emphasizing the need for complete submission and the rejection of individuality. I tried to reason with my family, to convince them that we were headed down a dangerous path, but my words fell on deaf ears. They saw me as an outsider, a threat to their newfound sense of purpose. One evening, I overheard a chilling conversation between my parents and Emily. They spoke of a final ceremony that would allow them to transcend the material world and achieve true enlightenment. The details were shrouded in secrecy, but the sense of foreboding in the air was palpable. Terrified for my family's safety, I reached out to a childhood friend, Rebecca, who had been concerned about our sudden withdrawal from society. I confided in her about the Tranquil Souls and their increasingly sinister teachings. Rebecca, now a journalist, took it upon herself to investigate the cult. She uncovered a trail of disappearances, financial irregularities, and allegations of mind control associated with the Tranquil Souls. It became clear that the cult was not what it appeared to be. Together, we devised a plan to rescue my family from the clutches of the Tranquil Souls. We contacted law enforcement, providing them with the evidence Rebecca had gathered. It was a race against time to stop the impending final ceremony. As the authorities prepared to raid the cult's compound, Rebecca and I infiltrated the Tranquil Souls in disguise. We attended one of their gatherings, where the atmosphere was tense with anticipation. The cult members, dressed in their robes, gathered around a massive bonfire. Emily stood at the center, her eyes closed in deep concentration. The cult's teachings had culminated in this moment, and I feared what would happen next. As the authorities closed in on the compound, Rebecca and I sprang into action. We distracted the cult members, urging them to reconsider their choices, while law enforcement moved in to apprehend Emily and the cult leaders. A tense standoff ensued, but ultimately the cult members, my family included, were freed from the clutches of the Tranquil Souls. Emily and the cult leaders were arrested, their twisted beliefs exposed for all to see. In the aftermath of the rescue operation, my family and I faced a long and difficult journey of recovery. The hold of the Tranquil Souls had left deep scars, both physical and psychological. But with the support of therapy and the love of our extended family and friends, we began the process of healing. Rebecca's investigative reporting on the cult led to a nationwide expose, shedding light on the dangers of cults and the tactics they use to manipulate and control their members. The Tranquil Souls were disbanded and their leaders faced justice for their crimes. As I look back on that harrowing chapter of our lives, I can't help but reflect on the thin line between seeking inner peace and falling prey to the allure of a charismatic leader and a dangerous ideology. My family and I emerged from the darkness stronger and wiser, with a newfound appreciation for the importance of critical thinking and the bonds of love that hold a family together. The Tranquil Souls may have left their mark on us, but we refused to let their darkness define us. We were survivors, and we were determined to live our lives with newfound strength, resilience, and a commitment to never let the shadows of a cult engulf us again. My name is Mark, and I've always considered myself a rational and level-headed individual. I was in a loving relationship with my girlfriend, Emily, who shared my passion for adventure and self-improvement. We enjoyed exploring new places, seeking out unique experiences, and pushing the boundaries of our comfort zones. Life was a grand adventure with Emily by my side. One sunny afternoon, as Emily and I were sipping coffee at our favorite local cafe, she excitedly showed me a beautifully designed invitation. It was embossed with intricate symbols and read, "The Benevolent Cult of the Hidden Truth." Emily explained that she had stumbled upon this group online and had been following their teachings for a while. She believed that they held the key to enlightenment and personal growth. The idea of joining a group called a cult made me uneasy, but Emily insisted that it was different. She claimed that they were focused on self-improvement, kindness, and uncovering hidden truths about oneself and the world. With her enthusiasm and persuasive arguments, I reluctantly agreed to attend their introductory meeting. The introductory meeting took place in a cozy yet elegant room in an inconspicuous building. We were greeted by friendly and seemingly ordinary individuals who welcomed us warmly. Emily introduced me to the group's leader, a charismatic woman named Sophia, who exuded an air of calm and wisdom. Sophia began by explaining the group's philosophy centered around kindness, self-discovery, and the pursuit of hidden truths. She emphasized that they were not a typical cult, but rather a community of like-minded individuals seeking to improve themselves and make the world a better place. Emily and I attended several more meetings, each one focusing on personal development, mindfulness, and the cultivation of empathy. The group's teachings were captivating, and I started to believe that perhaps I had misunderstood the word cult. As the months went by, Emily became increasingly involved in the benevolent cult of the hidden truth. She attended their gatherings more frequently, sometimes staying overnight at their retreats. She spoke passionately about the positive changes she was experiencing and urged me to become more involved. But something didn't sit right with me. I noticed that Emily was becoming more distant from our friends and family, and her devotion to the group was bordering on obsession. She began to spend less time with me, and I couldn't help but feel like I was losing her to the cult. One evening, I decided to investigate the group further. I attended one of their gatherings without Emily's knowledge, hoping to uncover the truth behind their seemingly benevolent facade. As I arrived at the retreat, I noticed a serene atmosphere, with participants engaged in meditation and deep philosophical discussions. Sophia, the charismatic leader, led a session focused on the concept of inner purity and the need to shed one's past to embrace a brighter future. But then, as the night wore on, I witnessed something terrifying. The group's teachings took a darker turn. Sophia began speaking about the ultimate truth that could only be achieved through sacrifice. She spoke of letting go of one's attachments, even to loved ones, to attain a higher state of consciousness. I knew I had to act quickly. The group's teachings had taken a disturbing turn, and I feared for Emily's safety. I reached out to a friend, Alex, who had experience in investigating cults and the tactics they used to manipulate their members. Together, we delved deeper into the benevolent cult of the hidden truth, uncovering a trail of disappearances, financial irregularities, and allegations of psychological manipulation. It became clear that this cult was far more sinister than it appeared. We also discovered that Sophia, the cult's leader, had a history of leading similar groups that had all ended in tragedy. She had a talent for drawing in vulnerable individuals and using her charisma to exploit them. With the evidence we had gathered, Alex and I contacted law enforcement and shared our findings. It was clear that Emily was in grave danger, along with the other members of the cult. We knew that we had to act swiftly to rescue them from Sophia's grip. We devised a plan to infiltrate the cult's compound during one of their retreats. With the help of law enforcement, we would apprehend Sophia and her followers and put an end to their reign of darkness. The night of the rescue mission was tense with anticipation. Alex and I disguised ourselves as cult members, armed with the evidence we had collected, and a determination to free Emily and the others from the clutches of the benevolent cult of the hidden truth. As we infiltrated the cult's compound, we witnessed Emily and the other members gathered around a massive bonfire. Sophia, in her charismatic and persuasive manner, was preparing them for the ultimate truth, which involved a ritualistic act of sacrifice. With law enforcement at the ready, we began to confront the cult members, urging them to reconsider their choices and the darkness that had enveloped their lives. Sophia, however, was not easily swayed. A tense standoff ensued, with cult members torn between their loyalty to Sophia and the evidence of her dark intentions. As the authorities closed in, Sophia's grip began to weaken, and some members started to question their devotion. In the end, Emily and the other cult members were freed from the clutches of the benevolent cult of the hidden truth. Sophia was arrested, her charismatic facade shattered. The truth about the cult's sinister activities was exposed for the world to see. As Emily and I emerged from the darkness of the cult's influence, we faced a long and challenging road to recovery. The scars ran deep, both physically and emotionally. But with the support of therapy and the love of our friends and family, we began the process of healing. The benevolent cult of the hidden truth may have left its mark on us, but we were determined to emerge stronger and wiser, with a newfound appreciation for the importance of critical thinking and the bonds of love that held us together. Looking back on that harrowing chapter of our lives, I can't help but reflect on the fine line between seeking personal growth and falling prey to the manipulative tactics of a charismatic leader. Emily and I emerged from the darkness stronger and more resilient, committed to living our lives with newfound wisdom and a determination to never let the shadows of a cult engulf us again. The benevolent cult of the hidden truth may have temporarily ensnared our lives, but it ultimately failed to extinguish the light of reason and love that guided us back to the truth.